In a forgotten corner of the world where wildflowers grew even in the winter and the evenings smelled of pine and earth, there sat a tiny cottage, its roof slightly crooked, its window glinting faintly like a rare gem in the forest. And inside this little home lived Neva, the gray mouse. Neva wasn't much like the other animals. Where some built large nests to store away for the seasons, Neva kept just what she needed: a warm, patched quilt, an old wooden spoon, a single candle on her bedside table, and a small cup of milk she warmed each night before bed. She didn't have much, but what she had, she cherished, and her heart was bigger than her tiny frame might suggest. Neva loved warmth, loved kindness, and believed one very simple thing. A little, she often whispered to no one in particular, when shared, turns into everything. It was a belief she lived every day through small moments, helping the squirrels gather grains for the winter or offering her teaspoon to a weary beekeeper so they could mix honey into their tea. Neva knew light wasn't something to keep, it did its best work when given away. One evening, as the moon hung low on the horizon, gray clouds began rolling over the hills, heavy and unfriendly. The wind picked up in long whistles through the trees until the forest felt like it was holding its breath. Then came the rain, steady and unrelenting as it hit every branch, every leaf, every roof it could find. It was the kind of storm that shook the world long after it passed, and it crept all the way to Neva's doorstep. Inside her cottage, Neva sat quietly on her bed, her little candle flickering in the low light. She wrapped her blanket around her shoulders, pressing her paws tightly to her warm cup of milk. She hummed softly to herself. It was a song her grandmother used to sing about sunshine and patience, but her humming stopped when she heard it. A knock, faint and shy against her door. Neva hopped off the bed and hurried over, opening the door with a creak. On her stoop stood a bird, feathers soaked, trembling as the rain poured around it. The bird opened its beak but was too tired to make a sound. Without thinking twice, Neva reached out, ushering the bird inside. She dried its feathers with the softest cloth she owned and dipped her spoon into the milk, letting the bird sip what few drops she could spare. "Warm yourself," Neva said softly. "This is a safe place." The bird chirped faintly in return, gratitude glimmering in its eyes. Neva smiled and pulled her blanket tighter, ready to settle back into bed. But before she reached it, another knock came, slightly louder this time. Opening the door, Neva found a young rabbit. Its fur was damp and matted, and its whiskers drooped as tears mixed with rain on its cheeks. I'm lost," the rabbit stammered, shivering. Again, Neva didn't hesitate. She helped the rabbit inside, offering it a corner of her blanket and stroking its fur gently. "Rest here," Neva said softly. "This is a safe place." She was about to sit back down when, as if the storm had plans of its own, another knock came. This time it was an old turtle, weary from its trek through the rain. Its shell glistened with rainwater as it blinked up at Neva, exhausted. Neva bent down, smiling kindly. "Come in," she whispered, sliding a chair closer to the fireplace for the turtle to rest. "This is a safe place." Throughout the night, Neva's cottage received guests, some big, some small. A beetle, a hedgehog, even a pair of mice younger than Neva herself. With each knock, her tiny home grew tighter, her candlelight dimmer. And yet Neva's heart never faltered. "The light," she told her guests, "is always enough so long as we share it." By the time the storm finally eased, the rain slowing to a soft drizzle, Neva found herself surrounded by newfound friends. The little cottage was full of warmth, despite the dimming flame, despite the space. And then something extraordinary happened. The bird stood first, reaching into its feathers and pulling out a tiny golden plume. The rabbit followed, revealing a dried violet tucked into its fur. The turtle pushed forward a preserved grape it had been saving, while the beetle unveiled a brilliant square of silk it had guarded beneath its wing. One by one, each guest placed their treasures on Neva's small table, offering a piece of themselves to thank the mouse who had given them everything she had. Around the table, the light grew brighter, golden and warm. Neva smiled as the storm gave way to quiet outside, her heart full of awe. Her candle, though small, flickered stronger than ever. In that moment, Neva learned the truth of what she'd always believed. The most beautiful times aren't made by what we keep for ourselves, but by what we share with others. If one day you find yourself in a storm, remember Neva, the gray mouse who gave her little home to those in need. Because kindness, no matter how small, can transform the darkest nights into lanterns of love. Thus, Neva taught us that the most beautiful times are not made with what we have, but with those we love. And that a small candle, if lit for others, does not go out, but rather glows brighter. If you liked Neva's warmth, don't forget to like and subscribe, because the forest contains many hearts waiting to be watered.